Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome. It's about that time of the day, time of the month, I should say, that we are meeting once again. I'm just checking to make sure that I am A-OK. Well, welcome. Hello. It's so nice to have you all join me here again as we meet again on another Saturday. This is the fourth Saturday of the month. We are just quickly going through the year. We're at the end of April. We are going to start getting into the season of graduations. And I actually have two graduations going on. One graduating from high school and the other one graduating from college. And they're both in May. One at the beginning of the May, one at the end of the May. Thank the Lord it's not the same time. So I just want to say thank you for joining me here again. Glad to be here with you, and looking forward to encouraging you in your health walk, and hope that I can help you with something today. So, excuse me, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So welcome again to the Abundant Wellness Podcast. And the Abundant Wellness Podcast. We meet the second and fourth Saturday of the month at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. As I said many times before, I'm here in Texas, so we go on Texas time. And so that is why we are getting started now. And I am just checking something here for a minute. My name is Joanne McDermott. Abundant Wellness is brought to you by me, Joanne McDermott. I am a board-certified functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner, and I am also a mental health coach. Quite a mouthful there. As a nutrition and lifestyle practitioner, basically a functional nutritionist, I help to address the underlying root causes of your suffering, your health. You suffering with your health, whether it's your physical health or mental health, like anxiety and depression, things like that. I am looking to find out what the underlying bottom root cause is, and then we are looking into your nutrition and looking into your lifestyle to help to fix that, reverse it, make things better, be able to manage it. That's what I'm all about here. And I incorporate that mental health coach in there because we can't heal physically unless we are healed mentally. We got to be stable, physically. That helps us to be more stable mentally. That even helps us to be more stable spiritually. And so I am here to help you with that. That's what I'm all about. So I got to throw in my disclaimer here. The information provided is intended to promote overall well-being and is not a substitute for personalized professional care. If you are seeing a doctor, you want to continue to see a doctor. This is not to replace what they're doing. Instead, what it is for is to be encouraged, to be empowered by learning how the body functions, allowing you to take an active role in your own health goals and decision. The more you know, the more you understand, the more of an informed decision you can make. And it makes sense for you to be involved in your health care and your health decisions, because who knows you more than you? Nobody knows you more than you. So I want you to be empowered and get involved. So we are learning about or discussing Epigenetics Part II. A couple weeks ago, we did Epigenetics Part 1. I talked about what that is. I'll do a little brief review again, but today we're going to be doing Part 2. I said that we would, epigenetics, it's all about turning genes on and off, and I said that the next time we get together, we can talk about, well, how do you turn them off so that you don't get those chronic illnesses that your parents and grandparents and, whatever runs in the family, has experienced, in the past. So epigenetics, what is that? To explain it again, best way to start off in describing that is to say that your identity does not have to be your destiny. And when I say your identity, what runs in your family as far as chronic illnesses, it could be diabetes, hypertension, obesity, just struggling with weight. That you might identify as yourself. Oh, it runs in the family, so I'm going to have it too. But I'm telling you that even though it runs in your family, it doesn't mean that you are going to end up with that. And that is not your destiny. You don't have to have or experience what your parents and your grandparents or anyone in your family has. So let's take a moment to just kind of review again what is a gene, right? Because epigenetics, the word gene comes in there, where genetics is the study of genes. Epigenetics is the study of being able to turn on and turn off your genes, which we're able to do so that, yeah, mom got diabetes, but I don't have to get it as well. So let's just kind of review a little bit what the gene is. So within your body, you have several cells, many cells. All the cells come together and make up your tissues, flesh basically, and then that makes up your organs, but everything in the smallest measurement is a cell. So within each cell is a nucleus. It's kind of like the center of the cell or maybe the main area, the main part of the cell. And within that cell, it has a nucleus. And inside that nucleus is actually chromosomes. And then if you were to, and the chromosome is like a tightly wound up string. And when you unwind, each piece, you are left with the DNA, a string of DNA. Now, if you take a piece of that DNA, you will end up with a gene. And that gene is, let's see what the definition of a gene is. A gene has instructions that determines an organism's trait. Or an organism, something living, me, a human being, a plant, an animal. So all of those items, all of those organisms, they have genes inside of them, and it gives instructions that determine what we're going to look like, what we're going to grow into. And these instructions are passed down from parents to their offspring, influencing everything from their physical characteristics to susceptibility to certain diseases. So those instructions that are passed down to us from our parents determine what kind of physical characteristics we are going to have. Are we going to be tall? Are we going to be short? Are we going to have brown hair or black hair? But it's not only the physical characteristics, but it's also the susceptibility to certain diseases. Do you have a high susceptibility to be struggling with being overweight? Do you have a high tendency? Is there a high tendency in your family to develop diabetes? So the traits that we pass down to our children, or that got passed down to us from our parents, some of them are permanent. They can never change. So in other words, if you're born with blonde hair, you're always going to be blonde. You're always going to have that blonde hair. You can't change it. You can, unless you dye it, but you can't change anything inside your body or in your genes to be able to have it so that now you start growing black hair, or if you start off with black hair, you can't do anything to make yourself start growing blonde hair. So there's certain genes that get passed down that cannot be changed. They're permanent. And that's most of the time our physical features, whether we're short or tall, or the color of our hair, our eyes, color of our skin. But then on the other hand, there are genes that can be altered a little bit, changed. That's what epigenetics is all about. And in fact, most of the genes, a good majority, I would say like 95% and higher, most of the genes within us that determine some of our characteristics, they can be changed. But there are things like really developing chronic illnesses, being overweight. And again, things like having that high blood pressure or high blood sugar levels, diabetes, or even cancer. So they say that genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So how is it that we can end up, even though we get the gene to be overweight, that might get passed down to us, or the gene to develop diabetes. Yes, we do get those genes, but depending on how we live our life will determine whether we will actually contract that chronic illness. Will determine whether we get the diabetes, or we get, or we struggle with overweight. So we can really control that in our lives. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. How can you actually turn off those genes, or how do you make it so those genes don't turn on? So even though everyone in your family, by the age of 40 years old, they had a diagnosis of hypertension and started taking hypertension medication or high blood pressure medication from that time, every single person in your family. So yes, you definitely have a tendency of it. But even though that happened to every single person in your family, there are things that you can do so that you can stop the cycle, basically, so that you don't have to experience what they've experienced. I've had patients that I've worked with, and breast cancer runs in the family. The grandmother had it, the aunt had it, another aunt had it. And so, yeah, definitely there is some kind of, in the gene pool there, of that breast cancer. But there's things that this daughter can do so that she does not obtain that breast cancer, or, she doesn't end up, getting it like the rest of her, family members. But there are things, very specific practices, things that the daughter would have to do to lower the possibility of her getting it, or even eliminating, the possibility of her getting it at all. And that's what we're calling turning the genes off. So how do we turn these genes off? All right, let's get right into it. It really all boils down to your diet and your lifestyle choices. How are you eating? What are you eating? And how are you living your life? That is really what it boils down to. So let's break that down into a little bit more detail. So I'm going to tell you exactly how should you be eating, or in what manner could one be eating, or should one be eating, to help to turn off those genes. All right, let's get more specific into this. And what does it look like as far as the lifestyle? What is it that I need to do to encourage those genes to be turned off? So I have kind of put the instructions or the information together. Well, actually, I didn't make this up, but I'm presenting it for you in this method, in this way, to make it easier to remember. So there is an acronym where it spells out New Start, but every letter represents a certain way to live, or what to do to help you to be able to turn off those genes so that you don't have to suffer from chronic illness. So if you can just remember New Start, and we'll take the first letter of each we'll take a letter from the word New Start, and then we will go into and talking about what each one of those letters represent. So The first one is nutrition. In New Start, the first letter is in nutrition. So you want to be sure that you are practicing good nutrition in your diet. So what does that look like? I'm going to just give you a real brief overall description, explanation, because as we go through the year, I have a month that represents each one of these. They kind of call it the 8 laws of health, and I go into more detail. So I'm just going to really give a little brief description of each thing right now, of each section. So just to kind of give a general overall description of what good nutrition would be, that would consist of every meal including some kind of a fat, a fiber, and a protein. That they call that the macro ingredients. So when I say fat, that would be a healthy oil. Now we don't need a whole lot of that, it's just a little bit of that, but your healthy oils. So we want to stay away from the hydrogenated fats, the trans fats. The healthy fats are going to come from your nuts, just eating nuts, or it also comes from like avocado, and it's mainly those, the nuts, avocado, coconut oil, olive oil. You can just kind of put a little bit of a trickle on your salad. That would be better than a salad dressing. You can add a little bit of onion powder and garlic powder to give it some flavor. Actually, more garlic powder. Olive oil, garlic, and salt really gives it really good flavor. And so that would be your fat or your oil. And then your fiber, that really is your fruits and vegetables. Every fruit and vegetables has fiber. In fact, those are considered your high fiber foods. You want to always incorporate that because your fruits and your vegetables have a lot of nutrients in it. They have the vitamins and the minerals inside of there, all that your body needs, but it also has really good fiber in there. Having good fiber ends up being good food for your digestive tract. So it helps to keep it in a good balance of your good and bad bacteria. But it also provides, it's a means of helping you to have good, normal, healthy stools, because we don't want our stools to stay in us. It can cause constipation. It can cause us to reabsorb the food or the items or toxins that your body's trying to get rid of. So being regular is important, and fiber in your diet is going to help you to be able to achieve that. So we have the fat, we have the fiber, and then we also want to ensure that we have some kind of protein, because the protein is all about building and repairing cells. So that if you get a cut or if you get some kind of inflammation and some old cells die, you have those new cells that come into place, or a child that is growing, or even as an adult and you're building new muscles. The protein helps to build that and establish that. And it just keeps you healthy because, again, the fruits and vegetables, that has the nutrients that you need. When we're eating food that is processed, our body doesn't need that. And so it's just taking up space, taking up precious time of your body trying to digest it. And it's just kind of a waste of time there. And then we also want to get in a little bit of carbs. Now, the diets these days that's been recommending is a low carb diet. Every food that we eat, it has some carb in it. It's just that our grains tend to be the higher carbs. And so if you're eating a low carb diet, you just don't eat as much of the grains. But on this plate that you see here, half of it is just fruits and vegetables. Now I do recommend eating fruits at one meal and then eating your vegetables at another meal, and not just mixing it up too much. And that is the best food for you. So you want to be having most of what you eat during the meal to be your fruits and vegetables. Your fruits and vegetables also have some carb in it. And carb is not bad because it breaks down into sugar, and sugar is what gives us energy. It gives you the ability to be able to think and do and walk and just carry your body and carry yourself throughout the day. So that's just kind of an overview there of good nutrition. You want to eat your fat, your fiber, your fruits and vegetables, and your protein, and you can throw in a little bit of carbs there. And the more natural and unprocessed your food is, then the better. So that means when you go in the supermarket, you're buying your foods more on the outskirts of the supermarket, but the rows in the middle, you want to minimize that or buy those less, because the stuff in the middle of the store, the individual aisles, those are going to be your more highly processed foods, and we want to be able to stay away from that. All right, so the next letter in New Start is E. Another thing that you want to do, you want to ensure that it is a part of your life. You want to incorporate exercise into your routine. Exercise is important because, well, for so many reasons, it's a form of anti-aging, or it slows down your aging, because as a result of exercising, you're able to ultimately make new neurons, which gives you good brain function. If you're concerned about dementia, hey, if that runs in your family, or Alzheimer's, you want to make sure that you are in a good exercise routine. And this is something that is a part of your life. Exercise also helps to improve that blood circulation, that flow, because as you're eating this food and you're breaking it down into smaller molecules so that it is able to be transported through your blood, it's carrying those nutrients to your heart, to your brain, to the different parts of the body that needs it. And so you are getting that nourishment. And, going back to the food, that's why, too, you want to make sure that you're going, or what is helpful, I don't want to tell you what to do, but what is very helpful is eating what they call a nutrient-dense diet. And that is really your fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, things like that. I know sometimes some of you that are listening, you eat meat. And if you do, stick to the clean meats. You can look in the Bible, in the book of Leviticus, and you can learn what's clean and what's unclean. It gives a description. And basically your clean meats is the fish that has scale specifically, so not your shrimp, not your lobster, and chicken and turkey and, even beef, some of the times. I know some people are kind of cutting back on it. Honestly, I feel like the less meat you eat, the better, and just really stick to the legumes, the beans, for getting your protein. But the difference between the plant-based protein and the non-plant-based protein, which would be your meats, is that your plant-based protein has an added benefit. It has fiber in it. But your meat, yes, it's high in protein, but it doesn't have any fiber in it. And remember, we want to ensure that we are getting fiber in our diet. So anyway, I'm sorry, back to exercise here. So it helps with the circulation so that whatever food that you're eating, it gets to get around to the different parts of your body. So what else? What's the next thing on New Start and EW? That would be W. W would stand for water. We want to make sure that we're drinking a good, sufficient amount of water every single day, because your body is so much water. Most of your body is water. There's water in the cells. There's water on the outside of the cells, and your blood, a lot of that is water. So your body needs water. You lose a lot of that water, just by sweating. Even if you don't have sweat pouring down your forehead, you still are sweating a little bit. So we lose, and even breathing, we lose, some of that water. So that needs to be replenished. So how much water are we drinking? Now that really is going to vary from person to person, depending on how much you weigh, how big you are, whether you're an adult or a child. And the rule of thumb is you drink about half of your body weight, but in ounces. So usually for an adult female, it's anywhere from 8 to 10, glasses a day. Or if you have like a, like a 32-ounce water bottle for a female, if you're drinking like 2 of those. Now that might sound like a lot for you. You may not be used to drinking all that water because you just never was in the habit. And so I'd like to tell you and encourage you that, just start off little, start off small, start off low and slow. It's the same thing with the exercise too. If you have not been doing any exercise, all of these things that I'm telling you, you want to as you are incorporating it into your life, into your routine, into the way you eat, you just try a little bit. You just go a little bit at a time, because if you do too much all at once, you'll be good for maybe a couple of days, maybe a week, maybe even a month, and then you'll stop because it was too much too fast. You always want to go low and slow. So water is also a great thing to have, to help with our health, because water can also be used as a therapeutic way. If a person is struggling with some inflammation, just switching back and forth from a bucket of hot water, but as hot as you can tolerate, so you don't want to burn yourself obviously, to a bucket of cold water, and then just going back and forth like that, what that does is it helps to stimulate circulation. It helps the blood in that area to circulate better, more. And remember what's in the blood. The blood is carrying all the nutrients, the protein, and all the things that part of your body needs that's sore, that's injured. But in conjunction to that, that's why we want to make sure that we are eating the right food. So as it's whatever's in our blood, as it's getting circulated, that which the injured area needs is getting. But another therapy for water that is used sometimes when a person is suffering from anxiety, and they just have a lot of anxiety, and they just can't seem to calm down, just dosing yourself with cold water. I've heard of people that just jump in a really cold pool of water or in a lake, and the water is just freezing cold. It kind of puts a shock to your system, and I don't know, kind of slows things down, maybe slows the heart rate down. And it really does help to take away that anxiety when nothing else is working. And I've heard people do that also to help them sleep better. Something about it, just when you can't make yourself slow down, it just kind of forces a slowing down, almost a stopping. And people, after they do that, plunging in cold water, they're able to sleep better, and it is taking away their anxiety. All right, next on the sequence of letters in the word New Start, next would be sunshine. Sunshine is important. It's very helpful. Two main reasons. The sunshine helps us to produce vitamin D. There's really only two ways that you can get vitamin D. One of them is supplements, but if you're looking for a more natural way to do it, it would be just going out and allowing yourself to be exposed to the sunshine. Now, you've got to be outside to get that vitamin D. You can't be inside. So you can have a room that's very bright, but because of the windows, it does block off some of that UV, rays that you would need to get in order for your body to produce that vitamin D. So just getting outside, being outside, going for a walk, maybe a walk after you eat a meal, short walk. You don't have to be out there too long. Or doing your exercise routine outside for a change instead of in the gym or in the house. Get outside every now and then and get that sunshine. But the other thing that sunshine does is it will help to raise your serotonin, the production of that serotonin. Serotonin is that neurotransmitter or that hormone in our body that actually makes us feel happy. So did you know that? They say happiness is a choice, and okay, yes, to a certain extent it is, but to another extent, it's the presence of serotonin that is flowing through your blood that helps you to be happy. So people that have low serotonin, they are not happy. They tend to be depressed. In fact, there is something called SAD, which stands, the letters stand for seasonal, seasonal depression. I forgot what the A stands for, but this happens in the areas of the world where they have very little sunlight during the day, throughout the whole day. And it's because where they're located, on the equator, they tend to be far away from the or actually close to the pole. So this would be places like Alaska or Norway, Northern Europe. Certain times of the year, they only get, during their winter time, they only get maybe 3 or 4 hours of sunlight during the day. And so as a result, there is a high incidence of people developing depression during that time. And they are just not getting enough sunshine. So we want to be able to go out there and expose ourselves to the sun. Now, mind you, can't be out there for long hours. I would say anywhere from 20 minutes to maybe 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So this is all going to depend on the color of your skin. The lighter you are, the less time you want to be out there. The darker you are, the more time you want to be out there to really get the benefits of the sunshine. Next, along our word, new start. So the next letter is T. T stands for temperance. Now, temperance means whatever it is that is good for you, you want to do that in moderation. So too much of a good thing is not good. So I was talking to you about food earlier, and the fruits and the vegetables, and making sure you get the fiber, and making sure you get the protein, and all of that stuff is good. But in reality, if you eat a bowl of salad and another bowl of salad, and then now you've eaten 3 bowls of salad, that is too much. That is going to start to cause an undue pressure or stress, on your stomach and in your intestines. It's just too much for them to deal with all at once. And when we eat too much, even if it's a good food that we're eating, we can start to develop like even acid reflux, or maybe even bloating, because it was just too much all at once. And I was also talking about exercise. Did you know that there is a condition where you can be exercising too much? And the way in which you know that you might be exercising too much is after your exercise routines. Okay, when you're new at it, you're going to be a little bit sore, but let's say now you've kind of been in a routine, you've been doing it for a while, that soreness should go away. But if that soreness is not going away, you kind of have to back up a little bit and kind of recheck and reevaluate. You should not be feeling a constant soreness all of the time. Sometimes people exercise in an effort to lose weight, and they get very discouraged because they go on the scale, and after doing all this exercise 5 days a week, 6 days a week, they find, and they're doing this for about a month, they find that they have not budged on the scale. In fact, sometimes they've even gained weight. So there might be a little bit too much of exercise going on there, and what's happening is their body is experiencing some inflammation. So maybe, again, you're doing this exercise and your muscle gets sore. There's a little bit of tearing and a little bit of damage, and it does repair, and it repairs very nicely, and that's how we build muscle. But you got to make sure that you are allowing time for your body to repair. If it hasn't repaired and you're pushing that muscle and engaging it and forcing it to work, and now it's getting sore again, and you're repeating that again and again and again, and so there really isn't an opportunity for it to heal. You just have this constant inflammation that is going on. And when inflammation happens, part of that inflammatory response is there's increased blood flow to that area, because it's trying to repair it. It's trying to get the blood to bring in all the nutrients and all that's needed to get it to repair. So that's why that area gets inflamed. And so now if you have increased blood volume, well, you're going to be heavier. That's part of the reason why when we get pregnant, we gain weight. Some of it is just fluid, increased blood volume in us. So we don't want to be exercising too much. We want to make sure that we are doing what our body is able to manage and handle. And we could always increase it, but we want to do that gradually. And of course, we don't want the experience to be so overwhelming that we get to a point where we stop and we don't even want to start again. We're afraid to start again because, oh, this is so hard. No, it's not supposed to be that way. We're always supposed to go low and slow and allow yourself to get used to the new way of doing things and allow your mind to start making it a habit. So we definitely want to do things in moderation, but we're choosing only those things that are good. As far as those things that are bad, we want to just keep away from it completely. There is no moderation in the things that are bad for us. So I'm thinking like drugs, of course, especially those street drugs and certain foods, I have to say, like the high fructose corn syrup and the junk food that's just so filled with processed ingredients. It has an abundance of salt and it has the additives in it and the colorings and they're really non-food items that your body does not recognize. And so sometimes those things can just cause inflammation inside of you. And of course, it tries to get rid of it. So it just makes your body having to work more. And so it's best to just avoid those items, those foods, those practices that are not good for the body at all. Just stay away from it and it's really going to help you. Now we get to the letter A in New Start. A stands for air. You want to be sure that you are getting fresh air. So it's nice to be able to alternate where you're doing your exercises. Some of you might go to the gym, some of you might be inside your house, but go outside. Because when you go outside to do that exercise, not only are you getting the sunshine, remember we talked about the sunshine and the vitamin D, but you're also getting fresh air. Your body needs air, it thrives on air. It makes your brain work very well. Your brain uses a lot of oxygen and you're getting the oxygen from the air. See, what happens is when we're inside, the air is stagnant. And imagine, I always think about this when I'm inside the gym and we're all working, there's no window, it's completely closed. And we're all working so hard and we're breathing heavy. We breathe in oxygen, but we're breathing out carbon dioxide. And so now the room is getting filled with carbon dioxide because there's no window outside to help exchange the air. And you know what's outside too? The trees and the leaves and the grass and the greenery, all the plants, they give off oxygen. They take in the carbon dioxide, but they give off oxygen. And we do the opposite. We take in the oxygen and we give off the carbon dioxide. So that's why we want these windows open, because we're going to get a new fresh supply of oxygen, and that is what our body thrives on. Carbon dioxide is considered a waste product, so we don't want to be breathing in all of this carbon dioxide all the time. So fresh air is really very helpful. And then the next letter in the word New Start is R, rest. Rest is so important. We really take it for granted because when we're sleeping, we're unaware. So, and maybe even sometimes we might feel a little guilty for sleeping or taking a nap. Wait, I have to do this. I have to turn in my assignment soon. I have to clean and we feel like, man, I can't sleep right now. I don't have time to sleep. I need to take care of what I need to take care of. But you know what? You need to take care of your body, and your body says it needs time for rest. So ideally, for the average adult, male, female, we want to get between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single day. Every single night, you should be sleeping a minimum of 7 hours. And you don't want to, it's best to go to bed before 12 midnight, because once 12 midnight passes, the quality of your sleep is just not the same. So going to bed before 12 and getting at least 7 hours. By getting a good amount of rest, you give all the different organs in your body a chance to just rest and to take a break. So whether it's your digestive system or your brain, that's also a time when your brain is just kind of, going through a cleaning, and taking the thoughts of the day and kind of processing it and storing it. It is said that, when a student gets a good amount of sleep regularly, they're actually able to memorize, the information that they study better. So, I don't know about pulling an all-nighter. Maybe once in a while we have to do that, but as much as possible, if you really want to be able to remember the information that you're studying, you want to make sure that you're getting a good amount of sleep. Sleep is also helpful for that individual that wants to avoid getting Alzheimer's, dementia. So it's not only exercise, but really, really making sure that you get a good amount of sleep, because your brain goes through this cleaning system, this cleaning process when you're sleeping, and it only happens when you're sleeping. So it really helps to keep the brain healthy by getting in those hours of sleep. And believe it or not, sleeping can also help with your weight. For those individuals that don't get a good amount of sleep, they tend to struggle with their weight. And that is because there's this hormone that gets released called leptin. So while we're eating, there's two hormones that kind of have to do with, when we start eating and when we stop eating. So when we are starting to get hungry, that is as a result of the hormone ghrelin being released, into our system, maybe because, and there's other things that kind of trigger that, so I won't go all into that. Maybe on another episode I would, but ghrelin is released, and we are starting to feel hungry, and so we go and we get something to eat. We eat and we eat, and then there is another hormone called leptin that gets released. And that tells our mind, tells our body, okay, you had enough to eat now, you can stop eating. And so what happens is when we don't get enough sleep, that leptin, that hormone that tells us, okay, you can stop eating now, you have enough, you're full, that hormone just decreases. You have less of it. And so you don't get the signal that, okay, you can stop eating now. And you find that you're just maybe always eating, you're always hungry, and that happens just by simply not getting enough rest. So resting has so many different benefits to it. And of course, the younger child, the teenager and the younger child, they need a little bit more sleep. And it's because their bodies are doing more. It's growing, it's still developing. And finally, the last letter in our acronym, New Start, is T. T stands for trust in God. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. Now, having trust is so helpful and so important, to our well-being. Knowing that there's something or somebody out there that you can depend on, when you need help. Because you know what, let's face it, we can't do everything ourselves. We need help. And if knowing that there's somebody out there that you can count on, that you can depend on, which I recommend would be God, He's there always for you, it takes away your level of stress. There is a part of our nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we are in the sympathetic nervous system, that's when we're tense and we are afraid and we feel like this threat and we feel like something's wrong and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. So there's this stress. But if you know that there's someone or something that you can go to help you, to depend on, somebody that's bigger than you to be able to take care of these problems that you have no control over, it helps you to come out of that stressful mode, which would be the sympathetic nervous system, into a more relaxed or more calm, which is the parasympathetic, And when a person is in constant threat mode, or what we call fight or flight, that can ultimately cause your body to have inflammation inside of it. And when you're having that constant inflammation all the time, the different hormones in your body are just going to be off. They're not going to be working as well. They get tired and they slow down, in their production and in their working, or they just don't work properly. They're a little bit off. When you need it, it's not coming on. When you don't need it anymore, it's still going on. And that's just kind of a general, description. We'll talk about it more when I get to that chapter or when I get to that month. But just when you're stressed all the time, that in and of itself can make you sick. And so having that person, having God that you can trust, having somebody to be able to help you, having good relationships is also going to contribute to you not getting sick, which will ultimately contribute to you not developing these illnesses, these chronic illnesses that your parents and your grandparents have had. And that is it. Just following those laws of health, those 8 laws of health. Again, it's New Start. And the good thing about New Start, it's not only to take away or to avoid you from developing chronic illnesses. It's not only to turn off those genes so that you don't have to be getting sick or you don't have to be getting diseases that your parents and your grandparents had, or anybody in your family, but it's also, it's just a good general practice for having good health and so that you're not getting sick and so that you can feel good and you don't always feel tired. And if there's ever a condition that you have, whether it's like a skin breakout or a flare-up, in your intestines, some people suffer from IBS and every now and then they'll get a flare-up. Or if you have like a rash on your skin and it goes away, you get the medication and you apply it faithfully, and yes, it goes away. But then it comes back again. I've been hearing, this has been happening to people a lot, or that you get the flare up, it gets fixed and then it comes back again. Or maybe it could even be cancer or something, or an autoimmune condition, and it's in remission right now, but then it relapses and it comes back again. And you have to be asking yourself, man, I get better, but then it keeps coming back again. And you hate it when it comes back again. Oh, I got to deal with this. Well, if you practice these 8 laws of health, that can help your relapses, these reoccurrences of these flare-ups. The New Start, method can help for those things to not happen again, for those flare-ups to come back again, or even maybe a relapse. Because what's happening is when you apply the medication and the cream and whatever it is that you're using, it clears it up nicely, but it's really just taking away the symptom. It's not treating the problem, and that's why those problems keep coming back again and again and again. And getting to the root of it, getting to the heart of it, the root of what's causing this sickness and this illness to you, it really, really all boils down to your diet and your lifestyle. Those 8 laws of health and New Start that I just explained to you there. I'll see if I can leave a booklet that kind of explains all those different 8 laws of health so that you can have something to refer back to if you didn't remember all that I said, or of course this is recorded and you could always go back and listen again and maybe take a little bit of notes. So I hope that was helpful for you today. The NIH, CDC, they say that 95% of the chronic illness that we develop is all because of our diet and our lifestyle, because of the poor choices that we are making in that. So imagine you can just eliminate all the chronic illness. Our food and our diet, what we eat, what we're not eating, the way we live, has everything to do with how we feel and our health. It's really simple. But I guess in another sense, it's not simple because we struggle with changing the way we eat. We struggle with bad habits. We struggle with getting onto an exercise routine. Well, I would like to encourage you to continue watching my podcasts here and even reaching out to me. I am getting ready to put together a class I do it in person, but I can also do it online. And it's all about having to achieve your goals, your health goals, but getting these obstacles out of the way, because there's an obstacle, there's a block, there's something that's keeping us stuck, that prevents us from being able to make these changes, in our lives. And it could be anything. It could be, oh, I hate vegetables. Oh, I don't have time to cook. Oh, I don't have any motivation because I'm just so tired, or I'm so depressed. And it could be anything. But there's these blocks that's stopping you from getting to that better place that you want to be. And so what I've done is I put together these workshops where we talk about those blocks. Instead of me going into detail about eat this, eat that, don't eat that, we're going to talk about the blocks, because we need to get those things out of the way before you could even start thinking or start applying, that which is going to help you to make the progress. So stay tuned. I'm so glad that you joined me today. And it's always a blessing, for me to be able to share this with you, because I know we want to feel better. I just want to remind you that the Abundant Wellness Podcast meets every second and fourth Saturday of the month. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. And at 3 p.m., same time, Central Standard Time. And remember to go and visit my website. Check me out, see what I do. And there is a link there too. If you wanted to chat with me, you can schedule a free consultation. Maybe you have some questions. Maybe you're not so computer savvy and it's easier for you to just dial my number. You can call me, you can text me, but I would love to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday and the rest of your weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.